everyone, welcome back. Now we'll go straight into our next panel, Impact Valley, how startups collectively reimagine a sustainable community powered by SVhk. Well, later on, our panelists are going to talk about, can startups be a force for good? If so, exactly how? As impact investors are desperately looking for impact startups that could address our social and environmental challenges, a purpose direction could be a promising way for startups to tap resources in the impact ecosystem. Now, ladies and gentlemen, please first join me to welcome on stage our moderator, Mr. Francis Ngai, founder and CEO of Social Ventures Hong Kong and co-founder of Green Monday. Also, please welcome his two expert panelists to come on stage as well. Please welcome the two ladies. And I'll have Francis introduce our panelists for us, okay? All right, now over to you, Francis, and our panelists.
Thank you. Hi, everyone. Please be seated. Yes. Hi. So to our Greek friends, so I can be more casual. So thank you so much for joining this section. I hope that in these kind of investment platform, there's a lot of time that we talked about the money or more colder thing. We hope that we can be one of the most warmest sections. That's our only brief before the sections. So let me introduce Juliana, a Greek friend. I don't know how to introduce you, but we met each other at the Green Monday board while we are incepting the whole thing. She witnessed the whole evolutions. But I would say later on, she also got herself participated directly. So she will talk about another second startup, I would say, InvestHK. I think she is the founder, and then, there are a lot of things that she will talk about in terms of the product development and things like that. So Ellen, of course, we have been working together. I think she is from Preface. So I think we have been working together on some of the community program. I think we always put her to be one of the showcase that startup go social good. Is it possible? As the MC said. So I think Alan can help us to talk about why a more so-called more traditional startup, a very successful one, why we are spending so much time in this community, in the society. Why is that? So I think that would be also one of the angle. Me, apart from Social Ventures Hong Kong, I think today I would also have a little role as a contributor, as the co-founder of Green Monday. But of course, as you get to know, David Young is the one take this forward. But I think 10 years back, while we were setting this up together, so I think the journey, I think, is worth to talk about, especially at the early stages. So I think that's the thing that we will talk about. Thank you very much again. So why don't we start with the first question directly. In what ways can social impact become a means for sustainable development in your organization and the community close to your heart? So maybe we can start with Juliana. Why don't you talk about that
Sure.
first?
I mean, just back to a question back to you. Can a business sustain without the social impact? That's what I have in my mind when I start, no matter my manufacturing rebuild or the brand. So I feel like nowadays a lot of people are talking about sustainability, but where is the sustainability part in the foundation of the whatever you're starting up? So yeah, definitely. So for InvestHK, when we start with anything, we think not just short term. Honestly, we have to lay our resources also in mid and long term on not just the sustainability point of view on the product, but business model, how we upbring people, how we make sure that the sustainability program is penetrate as a culture. So doesn't matter it's a commercial brand, it's a fashionable brand, it's a hygiene brand, but then you need your people to all buy in this. So we have very, very close bonding in our culture.
So I think, let me follow up with one question. Says, while you're constructing these kind of sustainable lifestyle brand, that I would say it's unlike the more traditional ways that you're doing things.
Very, very different.
By the way, that their manufacturing facility actually is the largest glove manufacturer in the world. So while you are setting this up, how is that different from that part of the business or the traditional way?
Very, very different. People who know me know that I'm from the manufacturing industry for if we count the years, 2022 would be our 60 years in the traditional manufacturing industry. There have been a lot of good things in the traditional way of manufacturing, but then where is the ESG part and the sustainability part? I was very lucky that I had an opportunity to rebuild manufacturing since 2016. So through that, not only we have to do hardware, but software. So we basically have the culture of thinking everything, if it's related to environmental, what else can we do better? In social, how emotional and also rational with data we can do better. And definitely governance is a lot of traditional company didn't really have, especially back then I had family business. So now with a very fresh startup, we actually start with G before E and S. So with the G, you have all the transparent data and procedure, things like that, and compliance. And then when you do E and S, you can do calculation on data. And we also hire third-party, reputable lab house and people who can do analyze schemes for us. And that way we can penetrate this real culture with data. I think that's way more persuasive compared to traditional way of running like manufacturing.
Great.
So.
Thank you. We'll come back to you later on.
Okay.
Alan, what is close to your heart?
All
By the way,
right.
that maybe you have accidentally went into their coffee shop that you are not aware of. So Pref is running 2 cafes right now.
Yes, right
Yes.
now.
Why is coming to the sustainable development scene, and then what is close to your heart?
All right, so I'm Ellen. So first of all, I do want to talk about who we are first. So we are Preface, and who we are is actually we are a tech-enabling company. Why we call ourselves tech-enabling company, it's because we don't see ourselves just like school. We want to really educate people as in how to apply tech in all sort of environment, especially nowadays in the community, where everywhere we talk about tech. So we want to penetrate applications of tech from the young kids to adult to corporates. That's why we are also having coffee shops that you just mentioned, because coffee shop is just a way for us to tap into the community more easily. So we do exhibitions there to talk about what is data science. We use very close to lifestyle use cases to share in the coffee shop. We collaborate with a lot of different kind of businesses. For example, recently we work a lot closely with Chanel and also IWC. Actually, we work together with fashion brand. Why? It's because we really want everyone to know in different kind of industry, we can enable them to know how tech can be penetrating into their own industry as well. So this is what we are trying to do. We want to reinvent and revamp how education should be like to their community.
Yeah. Can you talk a little bit more about some of the community collaborations that we have been working together for some of them, right?
Of course. So in terms of community collaborations, we do feel whenever we talk about community work, it cannot be just on the paper. We want to go deep into the community. That's why inside our community, we don't have just our own communicator or educator. We have enable or mobilize actually a lot of people in Hong Kong and outside of Hong Kong. We call them nomads. They are our instructors. We have instructors from tech background. They are developers themselves. They are data scientists themselves. We have also got some educators who we empower them to know more about tech. And then they will go on to teach kids, to teach adults, and also corporates. So what we do with SVhk earlier is that we actually bring a lot of very passionate nomad instructor into Samsui so that we can go to empower the kids there just to find out what's going on in their own community. So they go through the entire design thinking process together. They go to Samsui and then they walk around Samsui to see what happened in Samsui, whether or not some grannies would have issues walking along the street, whether or not, there are a lot of dripping of water from air conditioners. So they basically go through a few months of project together. First of all, find out problems together with 50 kids together. And also they will come back, regroup, to evaluate what they can do better in the community. And then the Nomad instructors, at the same time, they just work along with the kids to think of some solutions or how they can express what can be done better in the community to bring back. So we want to make sure whoever is taught, it's not to be taught. It's like they will get inspired by themselves and think of some solutions and help themselves.
That song is still in my mind. Can you share that little as a story to paint it up for people to get to know how the Nomad and the kids are working together? Can you?
Sure. So basically, in the community projects, there are multiple kids. They didn't know what to do, of course, with their own problems in the community. But then our instructor worked together with them. For example, one of the group, they see that there are a lot of like dripping problem in some shui bowl. So what they did is they take a lot of videos, they create songs, they write lyrics themselves, and inside the projects that they are doing, they actually code a project, which is a music video, and they create their own songs. I'm not sure whether or not I can sing here, but better not.
Love to.
It comes along like Dexuria, something like that. So and they create a lot of blogs just to make sure the music video it's like go into mind enough, so you can sing along all together to remind everyone that we should be aware of the situations there.
I think I have been witnessing the final works at that day. So that Nomad actually is working at NASA, a NASA engineer.
Yeah, he
but
is
for some reason he's stuck in Hong Kong and stuck in the community somehow. But I think through the journey, what I see from their faces, I think I see a beautiful picture. That's what I'm always seeing while we're setting up Social Ventures Hong Kong 15 years ago. Can the community be more flat? So no matter you're working on startup, you're an investor, or you are just some grassroots kids, can we come together, share some happiness together? I think that's the ideal. And that's why we're putting the topic called Impact Valley. That's how we are projecting. A lot of young people right now rushing into the scene and doing something exciting them. In a way, we call it startup. But can we put purpose into it? So I think a bit of background about Social Ventures Hong Kong. We founded since 15 years ago. So I think we have been incubated some projects, if you heard about. Green Monday is one of the projects. Light B in Cantonese called Guang Fong is the very first affordable housing, social housing initiative. It's one of our projects. We have a project called Diamond Cap, Jun Dek. So I think that is the very first wheelchair accessible taxi car fleet. So later on, there are some other car fleets following the footprint of Diamond Cap and launching bigger cap, so that the wheelchair users right now is a little much better than before. And then we also promote Run Our City, which is a street-a-thon. If you're a runner, you might get to know. So I think after doing several tens of these impact venture or social startup, we see that that is good, but that might not be good enough or fast enough. So later on, we see that apart from social enterprising, it's very important that I'm coming from the corporate world, how to get corporate or the investors come into the scene to work more in the social or work more in the purpose is very important. So we started our footprint in the business sector. We work with Airport Authority, Urban Renewal Authority, Rosewood, Hong Kong Broadband, a lot of different corporations to help them to structure their own impact strategy, work on their impact innovation program, and then sometimes we will help them on their impact storytelling as well. So in that way, right now we are working with corporate sector, of course, start in the startup scene, some family foundations, even with some of the government department as well on some of the impact projects. So we see ourselves to be a connector with all these people. So a bit about Green Monday. It's one of our very first ventures that we met there. Yeah. But I think by that time we see that plant-based is important. We get to know this. But apart from, which is our first generations of developing Green Monday, it's just a nonprofit advocate organizations promoting one day meat-free. Why is that important? Maybe you all get to know plant-based right now. But many people do not know that climate change, one of the big contributors is us while we are eating. So the meat-based protein is not good for the environment, especially at this point of time. Most of the coins right now growing in the US is not for human, it's for the animals because we like the meat more. So I think in terms of land resources, in terms of the carbon emissions, in terms of the food resources, I think we need to turn ourselves, at least partially shifting to plant-based. So that's why a lot of food tech companies focusing on. Although there might be some hiccups in a way in the market, but we see that long term, I think it's very important for us, human beings, to consider what we consume every day. But the magic of Green Monday, while we are advocating, I think it's the most important part. The first 2 to 3 years, we're setting up foundations just promoting this. We attracted a lot of celebrities, different people, the food chain joining Green Monday. By just the good thing about Green Monday, if you get to know that it's not good for the climate, then you want to make a shift. You don't need to follow my footprint. I'm a full-time vegetarian. But if I ask you to turn into a full-time plant-based vegetarian or vegan, it's very difficult. The good news is just 1 day meat-free. It's already enough. So for that, it's more workable for everyone. So when everyone is on board, the food chain is on board, I think we start promoting. But later on, we find that there are increasingly many more 1 million or 2 million Hong Kong people really having consistent habit on 1 day meat-free. I think it's still the case right now. But where to get these kind of plant-based food? 10 years ago is a bit difficult. But right now, no matter it's a vegan restaurant or more happy for us, it's those fast food chain. They also launched their vegetarian menu. So right now I can name them Dai Gia Lok, McDonald's. I think they all got vegan options. If you haven't tried our Omni Pork, just go to McDonald's to try their Omni Luncheon Meat Breakfast. You have that, right? Yes. That's the easy way for us to reach that out. So if we can provide enough options, so the movement and the options come together, that would be a good trend. So I think coming back to the impact value thing that we talked about, way forward, if we could ask for more startup people, they're young people. They want the world to be better. But if they're using their technology or applications, like Preface, they're already quite successful. But if we could get them to coming on board to work more on the community, then immediately we get more options to promote the movement together with the social sectors. So that's the concept behind it. So coming back, I'm not going to occupy all the airtime, but first of all, feel free to raise your hand to ask questions anytime. So we don't need to wait for the Q&A sections, okay? So that's more closely sections that we have. But I think coming back to the investors, I think that's what Invest Hong Kong is now doing, of course. In our mind, that we hope that Hong Kong, at least the experience that we have, while we are talking to a lot of family offices, they do charity and they do investments. So when we go to them with some impact startup, they are quite excited about this. In your experience, while you're doing impact, would there be anything that related to the social side that you can tap with some impact investor? Or right now, people talked about the ESG investing, sustainable investing. Would that be a trend that you observe, or is there any experience that you have before with these kind of investors?
Maybe I can start first. We've been actually getting quite a lot of inquiries because of what we do through our technology and together with sustainability and the meaning in lifestyle, that a lot of people ask, like how that macro and micro need of, especially after pandemic or during the pandemic, can really change people. I think a lot of investors, especially when they look for return, they might not just look for short term, but to look for meaning and long-term return. And they understand. I mean, and it feels like that they don't have the appetite for very short term anymore, especially seeing what had been done for the world in the past 2-3 years. So I think it evokes people that what really is more meaningful to themselves or their family or to their funding is really something with meaning and impactful. Yeah, we've got a lot of inquiry actually to come and check us out.
Great.
Yeah. How about you, Ellen?
I would say it's something very similar. So what I think it's like investors always look for scalability and also sustainability, because if they're just looking about like short term, they are not investing. They're always investing for a future value or multiple. So what we are doing right now is actually based on value. So we just now mentioned about like we have a business on education. At the same time, we have a business of F&B. I would say this is actually an ecosystem, and that is what we would see like education can be sustainable as well. Because on the education side, we have a pipeline of teachers. We train up a lot of good educator to be tech instructor. At the same time, we train up a lot of like instructor, tech developers to be instructors as well. So what we want to do there is we can provide the best second job for a lot of people, especially in the COVID time. We actually empower a lot of people in unemployment circle to be able to be employed in our own cycle. And at the same time, they are actually very good educator with some trainings from us. And at the same time on our F&B business, we do a lot of sustainability like impact as well. Because all the food we use or resources that we use, we make sure we use it from head to toe. And what I mean is like we do have like monthly manual. So recently we have a monthly manual, which is like talking about we bring in a British manual into Hong Kong from St. John restaurant. So we basically use the head to toe of a pig to create some manual. Even though it might look very brave to start with, because when people see the ears of the pig or some like organs inside, they might not want to have that meal. But we want to tell people from all the menus that we try to set up every month that we have a value behind. So in terms of investor, what they want to see is the ecosystem behind, but not like just one-off. They don't want transactional things anymore. They want to see impact inside the ecosystem.
Talking about ecosystem, that kind of related to us as well. So people all know that, let's say mask, okay? The data in Hong Kong is we are consuming 54 million pieces of one-time disposable masks every week. So looking at the weather now, I mean, it's already almost end of October. But in Chinese, we all say after Mid-Autumn Festival, weather should be cooling down, but it's not the case anymore. So what can we do? I mean, I vividly remember one of the potential investors, they were asking, hey, what can we do together with tech and sustainability together to actually build some impact for the weather? For our family, for my next generation or my generation. I think the ecosystem is what investors are very caring about from like the beginning to the end life of all the product. So that's why for the design of all our products, not only it's about the function, but it's gotta have the whole ecosystem of the development all the way to the end life, and as well as the function part of it. There is another question that I remember that they asked is that, hey, I realized that with the 2-3 years pandemic, it feels like that the purchasing power of consumer has been changed. Has been changed to what level? Is that people don't just consume because of fast fashion, but instead they want to buy something that is value. So value, again, is being redefined, that people truly look for the value for their family, for their own, and also for the next generation. I think that ecosystem totally related to what people want to invest, the time and money and resources into this as well.
I'm not doing advertising, but I think I need to promote their product. Once you use it, you just get addicted.
You can
I've
go
been
back.
using this kind of mask for 3 years. It's comfortable, it's cool. I think that's the first thing. But when you think about it, after using this reusable one, which they could kill virus as well.
In less than 1 second.
Yes.
It's actually
Okay, no more advertising.
Okay, so no more advertising.
Yeah, but I think it is, think about it. Every day you are saving the one-time use mask, which is right now a big headache way forward. I think we're coming back to normal, but I think we will keep on using the mask. But if you are using this kind of mask, you will stop damaging our planet. So I think that is something that will keep on sustaining the habit.
Yeah.
So 1 minute for you.
1 minute, okay. Well, 1 minute is you look at how I dress, okay?
It's all their product.
Basically, the technology is antiviral, antibacterial, yet it's safe, okay? It's permanent solution. I think it doesn't matter whatever virus or flu, okay? If we can protect ourselves, a lot of industry, I mean, I heard a lot of negative sharing that they don't know the future. So it's true, like tourist industry, even restaurant industry, you can never expect that you had to shut down after 6 p.m., right? So for people to plan the future, they need health, right? So we just wish that from a purposeful meaning brand, we can actually provide health and hygiene for people. At the same time, come on, let's care for sustainability at the same time. Yet, of course, you have to look fashion and lifestyleable. So
That's right. So go to check it out. They have a store at the Shanghai. Sorry. But I think one thing going back to the Green Monday, I think in a way right now what we see is that when the investors seeing these kind of venture, they might look at it in a different angle. So I think in the last round of Green Monday fundraising, we have raised 70 million of US a few years back, and then led by Swire Pacific in the investment arm, and also the TPG, the Rise Fund. So I think they all look at it with a sustainable angle on that. So I think globally right now, a lot of people rushing into the green-related investments. So how can we get more green, more environmental, but some of them could be social on the community work. So if startup can tap with this angle, I think it's a whole new of ecosystem that we can tap with. And also in a way that while we are collaborating with different sectors, for example, Green Monday, when we go into the bigger chain, right now actually we're selling our product in the US, in Europe, we're selling in Walmart. I think they all see that that is the trend. So when we can work with different stakeholders, even some of the examples that we quoted like McDonald's, they see that if they could get engaged, work with these kind of social ventures, that would be a good way. So right now, we have been working with social enterprise or more impact side startup. We call them impact native. But I think on the other hand, right now, while we are talking to many of the, we call it normal startup, but they could be an impact migrant. They could definitely use their think to help our community. I think if we could build up that together, I think the impact value on the downstream, I think that is already there. And right now, if you read the policy address yesterday, they mentioned about, can we attract more family offices to Hong Kong? So if one day we could show it to many other investors around the world and say that, hey, Hong Kong, there exists a group of startup or impact startup. They work towards some of the community issues. And then maybe these kind of prototype can be spreading out to some other countries, which they will welcome because we are working on the social good as well. I think that in general, I think we hope that one day those families can see that they want to come and invest into the Hong Kong startup. So in a way that, going to another, maybe one last question before we open to the floor. I think you joined us for the Hong Kong Management Association's Business with Purpose. So on another scene right now, they have more than 10,000 corporate members. And 2 years ago, we signed an MOU together with them, trying to promote with more corporate, come on social. Somewhat quite similar to the startup scene that we talked about. So with your experience that you are engaging with some of the bigger or medium-sized company, how do you see that trends going on from the corporate side?
It's coming like crazy. I mean, people actually ask for it, and how can we do business with purpose? Of course, you have different industry, you can link to different purposes, but I definitely see the trend. Doesn't matter if it's you just own a small grocery store. I mean, people want to build with other industries sometimes to build more purpose together. And for us, we also focus on youth development as well. For example, there are a lot of people saying, the Z generation, maybe they don't understand how, the older generation is thinking, but it's actually not. Especially on purpose like how we can help sustainability, even ESG, they care. And as long as we have product or some development or design ideas that we can link youth together, I mean, that kind of purpose is tremendous because they're being labeled in the last few years that they might be too going too extreme, things like that. But then at the same time, they care for their career and they want a channel to express. So we just feel very blessed that when they come in, we don't even care where you're from, age, industry. As long as you care for the environment, we can talk. So this kind of not as a stress kind of environment would definitely encourage more youth to participate more with us, and that's just part of the purpose, and of course more is what we really care about the environment at the same time. So.
So Ellen, in terms of the working with different people in the ecosystem, do you see that a way forward? Is there any special community goals or sustainable goals that you think that you can use that to work with more different sectors? Do you see that?
I would say actually, social impact elements super important for our business. Super. Why is it? It's because in our own ecosystem, what I mentioned just now is we rely a lot on the supply of instructors, right? So for instructors that we hire, you can imagine they are all tech talents right now, or they are like very demanded educators. So everyone are demanding this bunch of people. And how do we compete with other markets? It's all about our values behind, whether or not they can see themselves contributing to the community as well. A lot of investors ask us about how can we make sure we have like sustainable supply of instructor to be able to handle all the demands that we have, no matter on the corporate sector or in the B2C sectors. What we say, it's actually how we build the nomad instructor community. And how we build it is just like what Francis just mentioned. It's all about whether they can feel that they have the impact in the community, whether they can make use of their own talents, not just at work, but after work they can come over, for example, to really go to Samsoibo or go to any other community to do something to contribute. So you can imagine this kind of instructors or tech talents, they don't need a lot of extra money. They are they're already very well off. But what I want is they want the meaning behind. So we actually rely so much on the community segment or social impact elements into making them feel they are like very like meaningful, leading a meaningful life there.
Feeling is very important.
Yes, it's very, very important.
Thank you, Ellen. So I think I will quote one more examples of development of our Impact Valley. I think it's called Asia Social Innovation Award. We have run for more than 10 years. Right now, backing by CVC, Credit Suisse, and Alibaba Entrepreneurship Fund as our supporter. But I think what we have done before is just collecting some impact startup idea. But these 2 years, we have turned that into a short-term, a few months of impact incubation program. So we selectively find some like-minded startup people. They might or might not have some impact purpose before. But I think during these few months, we get them into the community, some people sometimes, and then we get them engaged with some of the social workers that they have not in touch before. But through the journey, I think they think about some new development. For example, one of the examples is called Water Bento. It's from Cyberport. I think you might get to know their hot meal vending machine, basically. So apart from the Food Angel machine, there are some frozen food for the grassroots family. But I think Water Bento is a hot meal, so you will see it everywhere at Cyberport. So, but I think while we are working, they see that there are some food distributions, free meals for the community. I think it's quite using up a lot of efforts from the NGO workers. And sometimes the working hours bounded by the operating hour of the NGOs. So with the first pilot, they worked with us going into Samsoibo. If you heard about Minggo, which is quite famous in distributing meals at Samsoibo, Minggo's free meal right now can reach out to a state that they were not there before. But that NGO, with very limited human effort, right now can use this vending machine just put in front of their store. So that even after operating hour, some of the Gai Fong or the grassroots families can come and pick it up. And then touchless as well. So even under pandemic, it's worked out quite good. So with that idea, right now, we get them to in touch with Urban Renewal Authority. As you get to know, they get a lot of different sites. So right now, we are seeing that how can we put this machine into every different estate. First of all, maybe it is good for them as a business development. But secondly, can we sell low-cost meal or getting the community restaurants to work together to make the food distributions in a better way to benefit the grassroots families. So right now they have even a separate brand name, a sub-brand, working on this together with us in the community. So this example is, we hope that way forward, there could be many more startup if they got a visions or missions or they got an interest, you can reach out to us. Right now, SVhk have spin up with a new arm called Cosmos that I'm working together with my colleague Florence. So with that, right now, apart from providing consultancy to some corporate to work on their impact strategy, we also want to provide more solutions and marketplace for some startup to work together with the community workers. So I think hopefully way forward, if there are some startup, I see some of you, if you got that interest, I think let's talk about that. So with this, I hope that I can provide some space for you to open the floor to everyone to ask your questions, if there's any. Please. Or comments.
If
If
not,
no, I will ask the last questions
Okay, sure.
to the panelists. Just one little advice. If there are some startups sitting down there, if they want to go on a purpose journey, what would that be?
Well, if you happen to be a fashion tag like us, wearable tags, definitely sustainability would be one of the angles, and it's gotta be also be something more than just sustainability and fashion. For example, like what we do is technology. So if you can put more values into it, I think you'll be ahead of others.
Thank you.
For me, what I'm thinking is, so for startups, we always think of one thing, which is revenue. So I would say you might need to strike a balance between revenue and social impact, because a lot of people might think they should be separately discussed. For example, we don't have time for social impact, so we don't focus on that. We'll focus on revenue. But then what I'm thinking is social impact is something that you should be putting in within your own value and to be consistent with it. Because without the consistency, people won't see your brand. It's within your brand. So I would say everything is behind your own value and whether or not you will keep it going. And revenue will come when people know about you.
Thank you. Profit and purpose. Can we blend that together? So I think it is a big venture collectively for our society, and maybe the world. It might be difficult. There are a lot of hiccups, but I think I will just repeat the one thing that I want to talk about is repeating what Alan said, the feeling. If you have enough feeling about money, it's good enough. But I think about your feeling about the society. Go to check it out in the community. While we are discussing these kind of glamorous issues, there are a lot of people in the poor area still suffering. Our planet Earth is suffering every day as well. So can we get our feeling into these kind of issues? And combining that, I call it an impact check with all the investment that we made or with all the startup idea that we have. Can we do something about it? I think, forget your identity. We are all human beings. We have the role and responsibility in making our world better.
The small step.
Small step.
Yeah, the small
Baby
step every day.
can
Yes.
turn up. Thank you very much again, and I'll pass it on to the MC. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much once again to Francis, Juliana, and Alan. Thank you very much. Wonderful and thought-provoking, really. Thank you so much for the discussion, and please be seated. Thank you. Really insightful.